We live in interesting times. For the headlines. Tourists on the popular Philippine holiday island of Boracay were stranded after a typhoon swept across the area, killing at least 16 people in other parts of the country. Hong Kong endures a third straight day of political unrest as police and pro-democracy protesters clash inside shopping malls. Dozens of families found themselves homeless after a forest fire in the Chilean tourist port city of Valparaiso burned through two hillside neighborhoods. And catching a rare eclipse that showed from Saudi Arabia to Asia, and people have been marveling at the ring of fire. I'm Alma Angeles, wherever you're watching from around the world. Thank you very much for joining us, and now to the news. Tourists on the popular Philippine holiday island of Boracay were stranded on Thursday after a typhoon swept across the area, killing at least 16 people in other parts of the country. Typhoon Phanfone, with wind gusts reaching 200 kilometers per hour, tore roofs of houses and toppled electricity posts as it ripped through the central Philippines. At least 16 people were killed in villages and towns in the Visayas, the central third of the Philippines, according to disaster agency officials. Phanfone, or Ursula, also hit Boracay, Coron, and other holiday destinations that are famed for their white sand beaches and popular with foreign tourists. Mobile phone and internet access on Boracay was cut during the storm, and the networks remained down on Thursday, making assessment of the damage there difficult. Jonathan Pablito, police chief of Malay Town in Aklan province, which is on a neighboring island to Boracay, said ferry services between Boracay and Aklan, the main way to travel to and from the holiday island, were still not operating on Thursday, even though the storm had passed. The airport at Calibo Town in Aklan, which services Boracay, was badly damaged. Though much weaker, Phanfone tracked a similar path as Super Typhoon Haiyan, the country's deadliest storm on record, which left more than 7,300 people dead or missing in 2013. Tens of thousands of people had been forced to evacuate their homes since Wednesday, ruining their holiday celebrations. Many others were not able to return to their families, with ferries and plane services suspended. Among those killed, Phanfone was a police officer who was electrocuted by a toppled post while patrolling. Skywatchers from Saudi Arabia and Oman to India and Singapore were treated to a rare ring of fire solar eclipse. Take a look. Annular eclipses occur when the moon is not close enough to the Earth to completely obscure the sun, leaving a thin ring of the solar disk visible. Now, while these types of eclipses occur every year or two, they're only visible from a narrow band of Earth each time, and it can be decades before the same pattern is repeated. Depending on weather conditions, this year's astronomical phenomenon was visible from the Middle East, across southern India and Southeast Asia, before ending over the northern Pacific. Hundreds of amateur astronomers, photographers, and had set up by Singapore's harbor for what some described as a once-in-a-lifetime event.
This is the first time I actually can view it in Singapore, so quite excited for it. I don't mind even taking a work leave just to go for this.
If you look at the sun, it's always dangerous. As long as you have a solar filter here, yeah, so that will cut out the 99.99% of visible light, and it blocks out 100% of UV light, so it's 100% safe. Yeah, as long as you attach it securely to the telescope.
You know, it's only 2 minutes, but it's so intense that you talk about it with your friends and family for the next months. do you remember this very moment? And when you look around here, many people do exactly the same.
So I'm here with my friends to look at the eclipse, the Ring of Fire. It only happened, it's an annual eclipse, and the next one is going to be when I'm in my 60s, so I might as well take my youth and look at this lovely Ring of Fire.
In southern India, people gathered on the beaches in Tamil Nadu to watch the event. The eclipse even affected cricket, with play delayed by 2 hours in a first-class match between Mumbai and Rajkot. The eastern state of Odisha declared a public holiday with all government offices, courts, schools, and colleges closed. But in New Delhi, cloud and pollution blocked the view, and Prime Minister Narendra Modi tweeted his disappointment, although only a partial eclipse would have been visible that far north. In Indonesia, hundreds of people gathered outside Jakarta Planetarium to watch the event using protective glasses supplied by the planetarium, hoping for clear skies at the time of maximum eclipse. Outside the narrow band where the Ring of Fire effect can be observed, skywatchers would see a partial solar eclipse. The next annual eclipse in June 2020 will be visible to a narrow band from Africa to northern Asia. The following one in June 2021 will only be seen in the Arctic and parts of Canada, Greenland, and the remote Russian Far East. And here are images of an annular eclipse progression as seen from Balut Island, Philippines. Annular eclipses occur when the moon is not close enough to the Earth to completely obscure the sun, leaving a thin ring of the solar disk visible. Pag-asa's astronomical observatory earlier said that the rare celestial event could best be appreciated in Mindanao, particularly the southernmost part of Davao Occidental, since it'll only be seen as a partial solar eclipse from any other vantage point in the country. Pag-asa on Thursday reported cloudy skies with scattered rains over central Luzon, Metro Manila, Rizal, and northern Quezon as Typhoon Ursula or Phanfone remains in the Philippine area of responsibility. Now, the last time the Philippines saw an annular solar eclipse was 75 years ago on July 20, 1944. The next opportunity to witness an annular solar eclipse is on June 21, 2020, but it will only be partially visible. To other news now. A community worker was stabbed and another person was left with minor injuries after a knife fight at St. Nicholas Church in the small town of Au in Saxony on Tuesday evening. Take a look. According to reports, an argument happened during a church service on Christmas Eve between two men. Later, around 22:20 local time, a group of several men, allegedly of Arab origin, appeared outside the church and a scuffle broke out. The community worker who tried to get in the middle of the fight was stabbed in the abdomen and later underwent surgery in a local hospital. His life is reportedly not in danger, according to investigators. The assailants have reportedly gone on the run and an investigation is underway. Dozens of families found themselves homeless over Christmas after a forest fire in the Chilean tourist port city of Valparaiso burned through two hillside neighborhoods. Take a look.
Estábamos preparándonos y hacer una cena, estar en familia con todo lo que había ya pasado en Valparaíso, que estábamos muy tristes, que no se podía trabajar y ahora finalmente perdemos lo que era el techo, el sustento de la vida, para vivir, para estar ahí.
No alcancé a sacar los puros animales nomás, los puros animalitos y una tele y los demás no pude más porque los carabineros me sacaron porque ya no se puede hacer nada.
The blaze broke out on Tuesday on Roquant and San Roque Hills and continued to burn on Wednesday, though with less intensity. About 245 homes were affected by the fire in a matter of hours. There were no deaths from the fire that had burned 150 hectares though 12 volunteer firefighters were injured. Valparaiso Governor Jorge Martinez said that although the fire cannot yet be considered controlled, it's quite confined and does not generate a risk for the population. The blaze started in grassy and wooded areas and rapidly advanced to populated neighborhoods in Valparaiso, about 120 kilometers northwest of Santiago. The cause of the fire and that of a smaller blaze was under investigation. A heat wave moving across Australia's southeast is expected to create dangerous conditions for bushfires in New South Wales and South Australia. Take a look. The heat wave will be the second major heat wave this December, and temperatures are forecast to remain high for the remainder of the month and into the new year. Soaring temperatures and dry winds are forecast to elevate the bushfire danger in parts of New South Wales as, quote, severe heat wave conditions build across the state. High temperatures and strong winds are forecast to create dangerous conditions for bushfires burning in South Australia, and temperatures will continue to increase tomorrow, with Adelaide forecast to reach a maximum of 39 degrees Celsius. Bushfires occur frequently in Australia, but scientists say several weather phenomena have come together to make this spring-summer bushfire season among the worst on record. Record low rainfall, record high temperatures, and strong winds have made the situation more combustible, and according to scientists, they are all influenced by climate change. Three members of a British family, a 52-year-old man, his 9-year-old daughter, and his 16-year-old son, were found dead at a hotel swimming pool at a Spanish resort called Club La Costa World Resort near Malaga, where local authorities have launched an investigation. Take a look. According to the reports, the tragedy happened on Christmas Eve when the youngest daughter got into difficulty as she was in the pool of the hotel. Her older brother and father reportedly jumped into the water to rescue her, but died shortly. The family's mother witnessed the whole incident.
No puedo decir lo ocurrido ayer porque está ahora mismo bajo investigación de la Guardia Civil, ¿vale? No puedo decir nada al respecto. Lo único que puedo hablar es por parte de nosotros, es de la piscina, y la piscina tiene toda la documentación en regla, ha tenido todas las supervisiones y no hay ningún problema con la piscina, y la Guardia Civil, con las investigaciones que han hecho, nos han dicho que tampoco han detectado ninguna anomalía.
According to the reports, a staff member faced difficulties when retrieving the victims' bodies, hinting at the possibility of a faulty pool pump. In other news, Israel carried out airstrikes against the Gaza Strip overnight in response to a rocket fired from the Hamas-controlled Palestinian enclave, according to the army on Thursday. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu was at a campaign event in Ashkelon, north of Gaza, on Wednesday evening when what the army called a projectile was fired from the strip, setting off warning sirens. Now, the army said the projectile was fired from the Gaza Strip towards Israeli territory and was intercepted by the Iron Dome defense system. In response, it said planes and helicopters hit several Hamas terrorist targets in the Gaza Strip. Military posts were among the targets. No injuries were reported on either side, though a security source in Gaza said damage was reported at a number of Hamas sites. Israel holds the Islamist movement responsible for all rocket attacks coming from Gaza, though the Jewish state also targets other armed groups operating there. Since 2008, Israel has fought 3 wars with Hamas and its allies in Gaza, where 2 million Palestinians live amid violence, poverty, and a 12-year Israeli blockade. Israel's embattled Premier Benjamin Netanyahu faced off against longtime rival Gideon Sa'ar for the Likud party leadership on Thursday in a contest that could threaten his grip on power. Take a look. A defeat for Prime Minister Netanyahu, 70 years old, would be a shock. But even a relatively close result could weaken his influence over the Conservative Party he has dominated for 20 years. Saar, 53, has been a senior figure in the Likud for a decade and held multiple ministries. He is seen as slightly to the right of Netanyahu and has called for an even more hawkish policy towards the Palestinians. In power as premier for a decade, Prime Minister Netanyahu early next year faces a third general election within 12 months and has been indicted in a multi-pronged corruption probe. But to lead Likud into the next national poll, he must overcome the internal party challenge. Polls in that party race opened across the country at 09 a.m. local time, with Likud's roughly 116,000 eligible voters having until 11 p.m. to choose between Netanyahu and Saar, and results are expected early Friday morning local time. Meanwhile, here is former Interior Minister Gideon Saar arriving at a polling station to cast his vote in Israel's Likud leadership ballot, with incumbent Benjamin Netanyahu facing a stiff challenge that could threaten his grip on power. Take a look.
הוא יום גורלי לליכוד, למחנה הלאומי ולמדינת ישראל. אני מאמין שאנחנו יכולים לעשות שינוי, להביא בשורה חדשה. אנחנו יכולים לנצח היום, לצאת לדרך חדשה שתאפשר לנו להקים ממשלה חזקה ויציבה, שתאפשר לנו גם לאחד את עם ישראל, שזה אולי הדבר החשוב ביותר ברגע זה.
Saar, 53, has been a senior figure in the Likud for a decade, and he has held multiple ministries. He is seen as slightly to the right of Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. He has called for an even more hawkish policy towards the Palestinians. In other news, Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro called on authorities in Colombia, Peru, and Brazil to capture those involved in the attack on a Venezuelan military barracks, which resulted in the death of a soldier. Take a look.
Este ataque que se dio el día de ayer fue dirigido y preparado desde Colombia, dirigido por el criminal, el fascista, que tiene las manos bañadas en sangre, prófugo de la justicia venezolana que está en la Embajada de España aquí en Caracas, Leopoldo López, directamente por él, con base de operaciones en Colombia, Iván Duque, en Perú y en Brasil. Hoy salió el gobierno de Perú y el gobierno de Brasil a desmentir su relación con los asaltantes del cuartel venezolano. Si el gobierno de Perú de verdad de corazón no estuvo involucrado, yo pido que se capture bajo las leyes internacionales a este terrorista llamado Vilca Fernández, que por las redes sociales asumió la autoría del ataque al cuartel militar venezolano dirigido desde el Perú.
A Venezuelan soldier was killed on Sunday during the attack on a military unit in the south of the country. The government said, blaming it on Brazil and Peru-backed political foes. Local media reported that the attack took place in Gran Sabana, one of the main tourist areas in the country in the southern state of Bolivar that borders Brazil. The El Pitazo website said the attackers overtook the military detachment and a police station, taking more than 100 rifles. Authorities have yet to confirm those reports. Foreign Minister Jorge Arriaza added that those involved are based in Peru and called the Peruvian authorities accomplices for allowing the organization to operate with impunity. On December 14, Venezuela's socialist government accused two lawmakers of plotting a coup attempt against Maduro, with the alleged involvement of the opposition leader Juan Guaido, who is recognized as interim president by some 50 countries. Syrians in violence-plagued Idlib are bracing for a harsh winter, and they're also suffering from an acute fuel crisis that have turned to heating alternatives like burning pistachio shells to keep them warm. Take a look.
رحت والله جبت صوبة قشر فستق بتقريبا $150 اشتريته، واشتريت طن قشر كمان تقريبا من $175 وركبتها والحمد لله رب العالمين. صوبة كويسة ودخان مالها وتدفئتها جيدة يعني، واوفر كثير هلا حاليا لانه قطاع المازوت اوفر كثير من المازوت يعني تقريبا.
والصوبة يعني موفرة، والقشر الفستق موفر، مازوت ما في اليوم، والعالم عم بتجرب الصوبات الحمد لله رب العالمين ارتاحت عليها كثير مو شوي من فضل الله. وهلا ما زال الامور الحمد لله رب العالمين شفت عيونك الامور مستمرة والطلب مستمر كثير مو شوي.
Hong Kong endured a third straight day of political unrest over the Christmas period Thursday as police and protesters again clashed inside shopping malls. Take a look. Protesters spent the afternoon on Thursday marching through multiple malls, chanting anti-government and anti-police slogans. Now, riot police swooped on the dozens of black-clad protesters in one mall in Typhoon district, using pepper spray as well as blue dye to mark suspects. According to an AFP reporter on the scene, police made multiple arrests. Hong Kong has been battered by more than 6 months of protests that has upended the financial hub's reputation for stability and helped tip the city into recession. The city's many malls have become regular protest venues as demonstrators try to cause economic disruption and pressure the city's pro-Beijing leadership. The last month had seen a relative drop-off in violence and protests after pro-democracy candidates won a landslide local elections. But with Beijing and city leaders refusing further concessions, rallies and clashes have reignited over the Christmas period. On Wednesday, Hong Kong's pro-Beijing leader Carrie Lam said violent protesters had ruined, quote, Christmas. A newly commissioned Chinese aircraft carrier sailed through the Taiwan Strait for a second time on Thursday, according to Taipei's defense ministry, just weeks before the island goes to polls to elect a new president. Take a look. The ministry said it was fully monitoring the Shandong, China's first domestically built carrier, and accompanying ships as they traverse the strait separating China from self-ruled Taiwan. Taiwan's presidential office said in a statement that China had an international responsibility to contribute to cross-strait and regional peace and welfare. Last month, Beijing confirmed it had sent the new carrier through the strait as part of routine training, sparking concerns from Washington's de facto embassy in Taiwan. At the time, Foreign Minister Joseph Wu accused China of attempting to intervene in Taiwan's elections, saying voters won't be intimidated. The sail-bys come ahead of Taiwan's January 11 presidential elections, with Beijing skeptic President Tsai Ing-wen seeking a second term against a challenger who favors warmer ties with China. Beijing has stepped up military and diplomatic pressure on Taiwan since Tsai came to power in 2016, as her government refuses to acknowledge that the democratic island is part of one China. Tsai, who has voiced support for Hong Kong's pro-democracy movement, has described the elections as a fight for Taiwan's freedom and democracy. 7 migrants were killed after their boat sank in Lake Van in eastern Turkey on Thursday, the official Anadolu news agency reported. Take a look. The boat carrying illegal immigrants from Pakistan, Bangladesh, and Afghanistan capsized as it was nearing the shore. Their final destination was not immediately clear. Turkish authorities said they rescued 64 people. Van province is near the border with Iran. Turkey hosts more than 4 million refugees, including some 3.6 million Syrians who fled the conflict raging in their country since 2011. The flow of refugees crossing to Europe from Turkey has dropped since an agreement concluded in 2016 between Ankara and the EU. We'll be right back.
Mga kababayan, lalo na sa mga OFWs sa Middle East at North Africa, may good news kami para sa inyo. Mapapanood na ninyo ang Net25 at iba pang Filipino channels na hatid ng OSN sa presyong abot kaya. Libre ng box at installation, walang admin fees at no extra charges. Saktong entertainment na sakto lang sa budget mo. Bumisita na sa pinakamalapit na OSN store o dealer and subscribe now! Sa Net25 at OSN, siguradong at home ka dito.
Welcome back. Beijing on Thursday said it firmly opposes trade restrictions included in a new U.S. Defense Act, having already admonished the bill for interfering in China's internal affairs. Take a look. The National Defense Authorization Act, or NDAA, signed into law last week, bars the use of federal funds to buy rail cars and buses from China and slows the lifting of sanctions on tech giant Huawei. It also comes as Beijing and Washington have agreed to a temporary truce in their bruising nearly 2-year trade war with a Phase 1 deal that has rolled back tariffs on billions of dollars worth of goods.
注意到，美国2020财年国防授权法案已经签署成法，其中包含多项针对中国企业的不利条款，中方对此坚决反对。
The act is expected to dent the bottom lines of 2 Chinese companies, state-owned railcar maker CRRC Corp and BYD Motors, which sells electric buses in the U.S. New restrictions contained in the bill prevent Washington from taking Huawei off a U.S. Commerce Department list that bans American firms from working with the company without specific exemptions. U.S. intelligence chief claimed Huawei's equipment is a threat to national security as the United States and other nations introduce next-generation mobile networks.
中方将密切关注法案实施过程中对中国企业产生的影响，采取一切必要措施，保护中国企业的合法权益。谢谢。
In other news, Argentina's President Alberto Fernandez said the South American country is in virtual default and compared the situation with the 2001 crisis, the worst in its recent history. The country is in recession and has suffered 18 months of economic crisis sparked by a currency crash. Its economy is expected to shrink by 3.1% in 2019.
Un poco sí. No necesariamente igual. En aquel momento teníamos 57 puntos de pobreza, ahora tenemos 41 puntos de pobreza. En aquel momento teníamos una deuda impaga una deuda en default y estamos en virtual default, eso es lo que heredamos. De hecho, no estamos pudiendo pagar y hacer frente a las obligaciones que van cayendo. Teníamos un problema de desempleo creciente, es exactamente lo que nos está pasando hoy en día.
The center-left president came to power on December 10 after defeating Liberal Mauricio Macri in the presidential election and has previously expressed his willingness to pay creditors. But the government unilaterally postponed until August, paying some $9 billion in maturities, which resulted in the country's debt being downgraded by rating agencies Fitch and S&P, who consider it in selective default. The president obtained political support from Congress with the approval of an economic emergency law that will take effect on Monday, or has already taken effect on Monday. It includes increasing taxes on the upper and middle classes, improving benefits for the most deprived sectors, and imposing a 30% tax on buying and selling currencies. President Fernandez maintained the monthly $200 limit of buying foreign currency imposed by Macri last August, noting American dollars are now scarce in Argentina and expensive. In other news, a company run by Bruce Lee's daughter is suing a Chinese fast food chain for allegedly using an image of the late martial arts film star without permission. Shannon Lee's Bruce Lee Enterprises accuses restaurant chain Kung Fu Catering Management of having used her father's image for 15 years in a logo without paying intellectual property rights. The food chain responded Thursday by saying the logo had long been authorized by Chinese authorities. According to the Chinese internet portal Sina.com, Shannon Lee asked the food chain to immediately stop using her father's image for 90 consecutive days, that it has nothing to do with Bruce Lee, and pay compensation of 210 million yuan or $30 million US. The Guangzhou-based restaurant chain known as Real Kung Fu or Shen Kung Fu in Mandarin was founded in 1990. Since 2004, its logo has featured image of a dark-haired man in a kung fu pose who looks like Bruce Lee. The founder of the chain said it has more than 600 stores across the country with a total asset value of over 5 billion yuan, according to Chinese media. It ranked among the top 10 fast food companies in China last year on a list issued by China Cuisine Association. Bruce Lee Enterprises in Los Angeles handles merchandising and licensing of Bruce Lee's image and aims to keep the martial artist's energy alive, its official website showed. Shannon Lee, who has taken over the company from her mother, has been involved in the preservation of her father's legacy for around 2 decades. Toronto, Canada's biggest city, is known for a few things: the iconic CN Tower and the Ice Hockey Hall of Fame, great food from around the world, and its historic streetcars. However, by year's end, the trolleys will be retired and replaced with sleek new trams, a decision that has been met with a mix of sentimental sadness and scorn. Toronto's original 19th century trolley cars were pulled by horses before the cars were powered by electricity in the 1920s. The historic tall, narrow red and white streetcars, formerly known as Canadian Light Rail Vehicles, or CLRV, were commissioned in the late 1970s. To board, riders must climb 3 big steps to request a stop. One pulls down on a yellow cord pinned to windows running the length of the trolley car.
We needed to replace them because they were old, and we needed to replace them because they weren't accessible. We also needed bigger streetcars because the routes are so busy. We needed more capacity.
I prefer the look of the older ones personally. So I don't know. I know they got to do what they got to do to keep vehicles up and everything, but I would say I like the look of older ones personally.
I like these streetcars because they have a history in Toronto, and when you see them, they're an icon, right? So, you know, but also the newer streetcars, they're bigger, they're better, they hold more people, they're faster. So, you know, in a city like this, eventually you need change.
We are such a congested city that the streetcars are very slow, and when they break down, you have to jump off because they're, you know, queued up. There's 10 of them queued up, and you have to go run or take a taxi.
Because the streetcars share space with cars and bicycles in a greater metropolitan area that is home to 6 million residents, they contribute to as well as suffer from gridlock. According to the city's Transit Commission, most of the old streetcars are headed to the scrap heap. A few will be added to its collection, which includes models dating back to 1923 and 1951. Others will be displayed at specialized museums such as the Illinois Railway Museum near Chicago. And a handful are still available to hire for parties or even weddings. Cheap and cheerful, Capsule hotels are forever expanding from their Japanese cradle, including now in Milan, where the tiny stacked rooms are helping the Italian city cope with exploding tourist numbers. Take a look.
Ciao, ciao, ben arrivato. Grazie. Quindi a parte quello comunque ogni mese
Pues la verdad es que la primera vez que vengo a un concepto de hotel así me parece muy bien, está muy adecuado, las cosas están bien, ¿sabe? El precio, las habitaciones y todo eso está muy bien, me gusta. Mi ha gustato.
No, è proprio come una casa, è come una casa perché comunque qualsiasi cosa ce l'hai, il bagno c'è, la cucina c'è, in più di casa che c'è sempre un continuo via via di persone, quindi conosci sempre persone e non stai sempre da sola.
Japanese airline group ANA Holdings Incorporated unveiled their new robot technology, New Me, in Tokyo, as well as its accompanying service Avatar Inn, which enables customers to experience real-world places as if they are actually. Take a look. Now, footage shows the robot moving around a store on wheels with a tablet-sized monitor that displays the customer's face in real time. The technology can provide shopping, entertainment services, workplace, and personal management solutions, with customers having control over such robots from anywhere in the country.
The technology that we are referring to are physical systems, essentially robotic avatars that you're able to log into from a remote location to instantaneously transport your skills, presence, and consciousness to a remote location. Now, we believe this is the future of transportation, which is exactly why we, an airline in Japan, are pioneering this new technology. Robotic avatars will allow people to connect over huge, vast distances to be able to experience real-world places as if they were actually there without having to leave their homes. And what we think the huge potential of this technology is that it's not only the future of technology, but also an ability for us to augment our abilities. Imagine a person receiving cancer treatment in a hospital, or an elderly person who can no longer easily leave their homes. This technology will now allow them to continue to participate in society equally just as everyone else does.
The Avatar service platform is now operating only in Japan. However, the ANA Holdings Inc. plans to expand their business globally. And Beijing's sprawling new Daxing airport uses cutting-edge technology, including facial recognition scanners, to speed up the boarding of passengers. Take a look. As you can see here, Beijing on Wednesday showed passengers checking in using a facial recognition technology which links their faces with their passports. The tech is also used in the purchase of duty-free goods, among other services. The starfish-shaped airport, which officially opened in September, is expected to handle over 100 million travelers by 2040, according to Deputy General Manager of Planning and Design Wang Chang.
在草桥的话，我们设置了一个城市航站楼，在这个城市航站楼里面，我们一共有4个柜台，2个国内，2个国际，它可以处理就是6到2.5个小时之间的一个航班啊，只要在这个时间，就是在这个之前，就6个小时之前或者2.5小时之前的话，这个时间段的航班，你都可以在那儿办理你的值机的手续，可以托运你的行李，可以办你的登机啊，办你的值机，然后呢，行李在那儿托运之后呢，你就坐的那个轨道交通就来到我们这个航站楼了，就不用你再提着你的这个行李了。
The technology is to turn the traveling process paperless, allowing passengers to pass through turnstiles or customs using their faces instead of boarding passes. Eagle News will be right back.
Tungkulin ng MTRCB ang mag-provide na appropriate ratings sa lahat ng TV shows. Para ugaliin ng pamilya ang responsableng panonood. Teamwork tayo, parents!
Rated G, good for all. Oops, rated PG. Dapat may mga magulang para sagutin ang mga tanong ng kabataan.
Grabe, rated SPG, maselan!
Higpitan ang paggabay.
Pag rated MTRCB, rated responsable.
Nothing like a win in front of hometown fans. Anthony Sevilla reports from Canada and tells us about the Vancouver Warriors' victory over New York in National Lacrosse League action. Take a look.
It was all smiles at Rogers Arena as the Vancouver Warriors earned their first win at home and their first of the regular season after defeating the New York Riptide 14-10 in Week 2 action.
It was also an emotional win for the entire Warriors organization as the players dedicated their win against New York to head coach Chris Gill. The week prior to the game, the head coach was dealing with the passing of his late father, Sowen Gill, who passed away at the age of 78 due to undisclosed illness. The loss of Sowen Gill was not only a loss for the entire Gill family, but the entire Vancouver Warriors organization and the BC lacrosse community. The past inductee of the BC Sports Hall of Fame and Canadian Lacrosse Hall of Fame was involved in the lacrosse community for over 6 decades. From a player to a coach to becoming an executive and eventually the commissioner of the Western Lacrosse Association, his passing was deeply felt throughout the entire community, including the Warriors players.
Sowen's been around BC Lacrosse for many years, so has Chris, and yeah, we talked about it, we heard about it pretty much right away. I know a lot of guys sent him text, he was replying to us right away, just saying, I know Sowen had a bit of a fight and a sickness, and his message was just Sowen loved this team and wanted us to take the next step, and so just keep that in mind, everything we do, and obviously he was emotional, so we're all there for him, it's family here.
You know what? Chris was an absolute warrior the way he conducted himself this week. He was absolutely professional, and you could tell he was going through a tough time, and understandably, and I think it's a very good room in the sense that, you know, a lot of guys checked in on him. People were very concerned about him, and he put himself above that, and he really focused on the task at hand, and there was some emotions throughout the week, but I really commend him for what he did. He was an absolute professional and made sure we had the best chance to be prepared and then get the win.
Yeah, I thought we battled hard all night. Maybe the score wasn't, kind of the way the flow of the play went. We thought we played a lot better than the score. But yeah, you know what? The guys, we had a little talk before the game, and the guys said that they were going to step up, and we had a guy go down 2 weeks ago, Bilic, and then obviously my father passing, and they just said, we got your back, and we got Bilic's back, and they went out and did it.
So how important was it that the guys had your back, the coaching staff as well, considering the tough loss that you had?
Oh, it's everything. We're a family, right? So it's huge. One guy hurts, we all kind of hurt, so I was really proud of the guys.
It was also Firefighter Appreciation Night at Rogers Arena as the Warriors paid tribute to the men and women in British Columbia who risk their lives every day. Warriors head coach Chris Gill and his father Sowen Gill were also former members of the Vancouver Fire Department. In return, the Vancouver Firefighters Charitable Society donated a special gift to the Warriors players. Chris Gill shares with us that gift and the surprise gesture he got from his players.
The Vancouver Firefighters Charitable Society, they've donated this, they made this lid, and it's going to be given to the player of the game every game. And the boys felt like they wanted to give it to me this week, so it was a big honor. Probably Matt Beers should have got it for his play, but it was a big honor for them to give it to me. This meant a lot to me.
From Rogers Arena in Vancouver, Canada, I'm Anthony Sevilla, and I'm always one with 25.
Russian President Vladimir Putin's ice hockey team won 8-5 in a friendly match of the Night Hockey League that took place on Moscow's Red Square on Wednesday night. Take a look. The president's team included Russian Defense Minister Sergei Shoigu and some legends from the Russian men's national ice hockey team. Pavel Bure, nicknamed the Russian Rocket for his speed, Stanley Cup winners Valery Kamensky and Sergei Fedorov, and two-time Olympic champion and five-time world champion Alexei Kasatonov. The rival team consisted of Russian governors Andrei Vorobyev and Alexei Dumin, businessman Gennady Timchenko, Vladimir Potanin, and Roman Rothenberg, jazz musician Igor Butman, and some other league players. In other news, Usain Bolt may not be competing at the Tokyo 2020 Olympics, but he took a star turn Saturday in the inauguration of the new national stadium 7 months before the opening ceremony. Take a look. The retired Jamaican sprint superstar jogged 200 meters around the track in an exhibition relay race alongside Paralympic athletes in the first public event at the 60,000-seater stadium. The show opened with a performance of taiko drums that instantly brought to mind the Rugby World Cup where the players were welcomed into the field to the haunting sounds of the drums.
It was a great experience actually being here, running in front of so many people. I was happy and excited because I won't be getting to compete at the Olympics. And if I'm coming back to running, no, I won't be competing. I'm actually in pain right now from the little run I just did.
The stadium, designed by renowned architect Kengo Kuma, incorporates traditional Japanese design plus a host of features to beat the expected sweltering heat during the games at the height of the Tokyo summer. There is greenery to provide shade, and the eaves around the Duter perimeter are designed to keep out sunlight and rain and help channel breezes into the stadium. The stadium, built on the ground of the 1964 Olympic Stadium, will play host to the opening and closing ceremonies, as well as the flagship athletic events. However, it will not see the climax of the marathon after the traditional closing event was moved hundreds of kilometers north to Sapporo on the northern island of Hokkaido in a bid to beat the heat. Total construction costs, including design and supervising fees, came to 156.9 billion yen or $1.45 billion within budget, according to officials. INC members bring smiles to nursing home residents in Manchester. We have a report from Grace Rivera.
Giving is truly a wonderful thing. Too often we underestimate the importance of small acts of kindness to people who need it most. Charitable acts comes in different forms and manners of generosity. Today, the members of the Iglesia Ni Cristo paid a visit to one of the nursing homes in Manchester. For what normally is an ordinary quiet Sunday, for the residents of the home has been livened up by an afternoon of musical performances by groups of children and youngsters who were only too excited to sing and perform to the elderly dwellers and the staff members. The residents were most welcoming and happily joined in clapping and singing along with the songs. Most of the residents of the care home have varying stages of dementia. An afternoon of musical activity and a couple of hours of the children's presence in the home have really made a positive difference to their normal daily routine. This is only one of the many acts of kindness we can share with people around us. I am Grace Rivera and I'm one with 25.
Thank you, Grace, and that's the news for tonight. I'm Alma Angeles. Join us online and here again tomorrow evening. From all of us here at Eagle News, I'm always one with 25. Good night.
Did you ask Mom if you can use the computer? Yes, Ate Kat. She said I can use the computer for an hour today. Remember, Ken, you can only visit websites that Mommy and Dad allowed us to visit. Yes, Ate Kat, I will. I just plan to search for my homework in school, and of course, I will watch an episode in my favorite YouTube channel. Oh, let's watch together, Ken. Here at the Cat, Net25 Kids. Oh, I'm subscribed to that channel. That's my favorite too. How about you? Have you subscribed to Net25 Kids' YouTube channel yet? Just look for Net25 Kids. And don't forget to hit the notification bell so that you would know right away if they have new videos. Net25 Kids is also on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and Pinterest. Like, subscribe, and share it with your friends as well. And remember, always ask permission from your parents before using the internet. Also, only go to safe websites where your parents have allowed you to visit. All right, Ken, time to watch.
Para sa mga viewers namin sa Middle East at North Africa via OSN, hello sa inyong lahat dyan. Ako po si Ben Bernaldez at araw-araw tayong magkasama sa Eagle News International Filipino Edition. Dito sa Net25 at OSN, siguradong at home ka dito.
Susunod na programa ay rated PG. Ito ay nangangailangan ng patnubay at gabay ng magulang para sa mga batang manonood.
Sinasabing karamihan sa sibilisasyon ay nabubuo sa tabing ilog. Dahil ang ilog ay isa sa pangunahing pinagkukunan ng tubig na dumadaloy sa isang bayan o baryo na ginagamit ng mga tao sa pangkabuhayan at pang-araw-araw nilang buhay. Ngunit paano kung ang ilog